Hey guys, I have been knee-deep in my land search for the new farm. I've looked at a number of places. I can't share them with you just yet, but I have found a place that is almost perfect. I've put an offer in, can't share the number with you, can't share where it is just yet. If it gets accepted, I might know tonight. I'll for sure let you guys know. But today I want to just make a video to kind of help take you through the process in which I've been looking for land and some of the criteria that are really important to me, and perhaps some of this can help you in understanding the best kind of context on what you look for, and maybe this can help you guys. So over the last couple weeks, I have viewed a number of properties. I've been around, I've looked at things on Google Earth, I've gone and done viewings with my realtor, been going through this whole process, and it's quite time consuming, I must tell you. And land here is ridiculously expensive. You know, one thing I'll say right off the bat, sort of candidly, is that if I wasn't who I was right now, being somebody that wrote a book that's done okay, I have other sources of revenue off my farm now, there's no way I could afford to do this. It's kind of funny because, like, agricultural land, and this was my initial reason for writing my book, and the reason I got into the farming the way that I have, is agricultural land here is ridiculously expensive. Like 5 to 10 acres with an almost tear down house are being listed at 1.5 million, sometimes closing at that same price. Like, it is insane. Now, a lot of people have said to me, hey, why aren't you looking for somewhere a little bit cheaper? Why aren't you looking a little bit, even like an hour outside of your town or somewhere more rural? And I want to address that, but I kind of want to take you guys through what I've been looking for when I'm looking for land. And I've got sort of 4 things that are the things that are really important to me when I'm looking, and 2 are hands down things that I don't want to compromise on. When we've been looking for land, you know, I'm looking for a place that has a decent amount of farmland. I want to be able to 10x Green City acres. So I want to have at least 2.5 acres of usable farmland. So when I lay everything out, greenhouses, blocks, I want to have that much production. I think it works out to be, so like example, Green City Acres has 65 50-foot beds. So let's just boil that down to, let's just say 32 100-foot beds, because I want to have 100-foot beds on the farm. I want to have 10 times that. So I want to have 320 100-foot beds on the farm. So if those were 10-bed blocks, that would be 32 blocks of 30-inch by 100-foot beds. So that's kind of what I'm looking for. That depending on how much walkway space you have and perimeter around your blocks, that can be anywhere between 2 to 4, even 5 acres, depending on how you space everything out. So I think in the future, I'm just going to start referencing everything to beds, because it's a far more understandable and tangible way of defining usable land on a farm. So needless to say, I want to have 320 100-foot beds on this farm. And I want to have relatively flat land. I don't want land that is facing the north, at least parts of it could be slightly, but I don't want to have anything that has too much grade. You know, it's possible to terrace land, but it wouldn't be my preference. Like, I would consider terracing land if, you know, if it was family land and it was given to me, I'd look at terracing land. But I would never go and buy land with the intention of terracing. Terracing can be very expensive, and it's time consuming, and it can be risky depending on the grade of land. So I'm not interested in terracing. I'm also looking for land that it's not too close to a mountain. So the one challenge for us geographically in this area is the Okanagan Valley, which is the geographical bioregional area that Kelowna is a valley that runs north and south. And so the mountains on either side are sloping to the west face, so on the east side facing the west, or on the west side facing the east. So the challenge here is that there's no real land anywhere that faces the south, and that's the most ideal. If you have a slight grade or exposure to the south, that's the most ideal. But it's almost impossible to find here. You know, when you look at a mountain that's going up, and you know, you might have the you know, British Columbia, we're in a mountainous area close to the Rocky Mountains. We got big mountains, and these mountains start really gradual and then they just keep working their way up. When you're down in the lower parts, you get these sort of rolling hills. You can find sometimes these southern facing slopes, and those are really ideal, but those are really hard to find. And so all the places that I have found are not entirely flat. If you're down in the flats, they can be flat. But if you're slightly outside of that flat, you're going up an eastern mountain or a western mountain. So there's challenges with that. And like, it hasn't been easy. The one thing that's been really difficult for us is, okay, let's just find some square land. That's all down in the flat areas. The problem here in my local context, and this is sort of a lifestyle choice for us having a child, is they're surrounded by conventional farms. They're surrounded by cherry orchards and apple orchards and vineyards and even vegetable farms that are spraying chemicals like crazy. So I know that there's like certified organic farms in there too, but I don't even want to be around that stuff at all. So our preference has been to find land that's a bit more removed and not so much in like the sort of agricultural flats. And that's kind of narrowed down the places that we've been looking at. So now I want to talk about these 4 criteria. Now that you understand my context a bit more, what we're looking for, the 4 things that are super, super important for me. The first thing and most important thing, and probably the thing that I'll talk the most about, is access to market. So being close to a place where you can sell your product. You don't have to drive too far. You already know you have some social equity there. That's huge for me. Social capital, I've talked about this before, which is essentially just relationships. So that market stuff is really important. Second thing is access to resources. So being close to places like Home Depot or agricultural supply stores, or you know, you're in an area where you can get deliveries sent to you. If you're too rural, it's difficult to get things delivered to you. So those 2 for me are like the most important. And then the second 2, you know, we've decided on the area, right? So I'm not talking so much about specific geography in these, but the third is the climate of that place. So what zone you're in. You know, in Kelowna, like right downtown here, I'm a zone 6B. Up the hill a little bit, you can get down to a zone 4. Even just a little outside the city, you can get down to a zone 5 really quickly. So that's your climate. And then 4th is the soil. What's the condition of the soil? You know, I could add a 5th thing in there. Maybe it's access to water. Let's just throw that one in for the sake of it. Let's say it's access to water. So let's start from the bottom. Access to water on a farm is key, and I've figured this out pretty early on in this search, is that some of the properties I've looked at that are a little bit outside of the agriculturally dense areas are on well water, and the well water is not great. And you know, that's risky. And then I know permaculturalists and things like this are going to say, yeah, you can do earthworks and catch water dams and all that, and I'm totally interested in that stuff. But it's you're betting a lot on that working out, and in this climate we're really dry. So for me, if the water wasn't there, we pretty much dropped those. So then up to soil. Soil's been pretty key in the sense that some of these places I've looked have been like 6 inches down to bedrock, so forget about it. That's no good. Some of them that are a little bit higher up in the mountains too have been just like zero soil, like just complete mineral. And I don't mind that so much. I could work with that, but I'd rather not. But you could fix that. You can bring in soil. Like you can put capital in and fix that. Whereas water, if your water's not there, you can only put so much capital in, and there's no guarantee you can fix it. With the soil, you could put more capital in and fix it. You can bring in lots of compost, you can bring in soil. Not that hard to fix. Climate actually isn't that hard to fix either, because You can use greenhouses. You can use season extension stuff. You can, for us, we want to grow greens. So if I'm 6B down here and I end up buying a place that's a zone 5, not that big of a deal because I can just extend the season with greenhouses, polylow tunnels, caterpillar tunnels, high tunnels, whatever, right? Access to resources, you can't really, well, maybe you can in some ways, but it's difficult to put capital in to fix that problem. Because if you don't have stuff around you where you can go and get things that you need, like I need lumber right away, I need more greenhouse poly, I need a bunch of metal, or whatever it is that you're building a farm, all these resources that you need, if you're having to go back and forth long distances to get those, and you've got these perpetual long lists of things you need to add to them, you go get them, and then you come back and you realize, oh, now we need this thing. Okay, we got to go do another trip. And I've seen this time and time again on farms that I've consulted for, is that they're just constantly driving, constantly going back and forth and wasting a ton of resources and their own personal time on tracking those down. So for me, I can't really budge on that one. And then the number one, access to the market is the most important thing. So being close to a place that I can sell all this product, but also have relationships from the years that I've been around. If I was to just suddenly move to another town where I don't know anybody, I'm essentially starting from scratch. Whereas here, I have so many people around me that if I have questions, I've always got friends that I know I can call. Like, I know contractors in every trade. If I have an electrical question, I got a guy I can just call and ask a quick question to. We've done favors for each other, we'll do that. If I need to build a building, I can call a framing guy. If I've got a plumbing question, I can call a plumber. I've got all these resources around me, and I think a lot of people take for granted how important those resources are as far as relationships. So for me, the marketplace is why I won't budge. That's why I've decided to spend a ton more money and buy land in a place that is totally overinflated, opposed to going somewhere cheap. So that's been my process. Those are it started as 4, but those are my 5 things that I think are really key when you're looking for land. And you know what? After this whole process, I might come back with another video of 10 things. You never know. But these are the things that I kind of knew coming in. The water thing, actually, I didn't think about that much, because I must say, as an urban farmer, I'm very fortunate that I can just plug in, and water is so important for farms. And as I've gone through this process, I realize how key it is, and that's a huge advantage for urban farms. I've talked about it in the past, but I didn't really realize how important it was. So hope you guys found that helpful. Talk to you later.